Hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's about to be good evening, good night for me. 7:45 in the morning, and as soon as I get loaded and out of here, out of these here caves, I'm gonna be going to parking and going to bed. But before I go to bed, I'm gonna have to figure out how to. I wasn't gonna pay to have all these tire sensors. The tire pressure sensors. I got four of them, $200 for brand new ones. And I didn't want to pay them to do it because they'd charge me an hour no matter what, even though it only takes them like 5 or 10 minutes. So I figured it can't be that hard. Well, I got here in the caves and I was going to do it while I was in the caves because I can't have the APU running or engine running or anything like that. And um, and I get the screen's just confusing as hell. I think I actually deleted a tire off the screen, so I'm going to figure that out. But I'm going to need YouTube to figure it out, and I don't have any service down here, so it's going to have to wait until I get parked. It's not that big of a deal. I know the tires, like I've checked all the tires, so I know they're good. But and we'll get into something here shortly about how I screwed up a tire last night. But my so just so you guys know, on these things now they're very handy. You don't want to use these things, this tire pressure monitoring system, as like your gold. You still want to do your pre-trips and keep an eye on your tires and all that good stuff. But where they're very helpful is if all of a sudden you lose 15, 20 pounds of pressure going down the road, that's going to indicate something pretty significant. But if it after about 3.5 years roughly on a truck, they're only going to last about 3 years to 3.5 years. Then they're going to start going bad, especially when it gets cold. You'll get this whole dashboard system in your truck light up while you're driving down the highway, making you think that you've got a flat tire. But then you navigate through it and you realize it just lost signal. But the pain in the ass thing about that is that this thing stays bright as Hades, and you can't make it not have that screen. You can't like make that screen go dim if it loses signal. So in the past, I've just been able to go to Prime and find, some used ones laying around. They sell used ones for like $25. But I've got four out. The first two I replaced, the two front drives, I replaced those. Those were the first two that went out and were losing signal. And now all four of the other ones, the back two drives and the two steers, all lost signal last night. Well, not all last night, but all four have been losing. Two of them were losing signal before I went home, and now the two steers have lost signal. So instead of messing around with it with old used ones or something like that I just have problems down the road because we're at the very beginning of the winter, I was like, screw it. I'm just going to buy brand new ones. I think they're like $45, $48 a piece or something like that. And I just bought four brand new ones because I just didn't want to deal with, just didn't want to deal with any. I just want new ones. I don't want to deal with them anymore. So I saved some money by not having them install them, and now I got to figure out how to get them programmed. I can navigate through the screens, and I think I understand what's going on. But I think I accidentally deleted one of the tires, so I got to figure out how to add that back, and I'll just watch a video on it and figure it all out. And they have a little scan me thing on them, which I'm assuming is going to take you somewhere to help you do that. Let's get right on the top. There's this little scanning thing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But anyway, if you guys are losing signal, then that means that they're going bad, especially if you've had your truck for 3.5 years or longer. They just go bad. They don't. And I think they're under warranty on new trucks until 3 years, I believe. And then at 3 years, they're no longer warranty. So it's pretty much them saying they're only going to be good for 3 years. And I did screw up one of my tires last night. Man, I was just talking to Kevin K-Mac. He and I were on the phone for a good hour this morning before I came in here, got docked. And we were talking about how that first load, when you come out of home time, kind of can in a lot of cases set the tone. Now, I'm not trying to jinx myself. I'm not saying that that's going to set the tone here, but boy, if it did this time, I may have to just go home for a couple more days and reset, because this week has been off to not a great start. This load that I got was a great load. Pays $1,300 for 470 miles. Drop and hook at the 90 anytime within a 24-hour period. So killer load. Problem is, when I left Springfield last night, my tractor brake was frozen up, and I rocked it a little bit back and forth. And when it was the first indication, it was like, okay, that's definitely locked. I'm not moving. In fact, my drives were spinning a little bit. So I was like, what the hell? Now, Kevin gave me a great tip, by the way. So Kevin, thank you for this, because I'll use this tip in the future. Although I'm not sure it was entirely relevant last night, but his tip was lock your differential so that all 4 tires move, and that'll help loosen up that brake. Great advice. I'd never thought about that. I'll do that in the future. But so I rocked it back and forth, and it was tight. So it was very clear that it was locked, and the drives were spinning a little bit. And then finally, I put it in neutral, put it in reverse, pushed up against it, put it in neutral, put it back in drive. And then when I went forward, the truck went forward. Now, longtime subscribers will remember that it was about 5-6 years ago, somewhere in that range, when we had a crash pad in Springfield. There was snow and ice on the interstate, and that drive on the passenger side, you can't see unless you turn your mirror down and really lean over there. You're not really going to see those tires moving. But these tires on the driver's side, you can see. So I left to go to the terminal and just assumed, because I was driving on snow and ice, that the tires were turning. Well, I got up on the interstate, and apparently that tire had been locked and dragged across the ice the whole time until I got on the interstate, and then I dragged a hole all the way across that super single, and it immediately went flat. Ended up costing me a lot of money. It was a weekend. Prime couldn't send a tire guy out. I was like 1 mile from the terminal, and I ended up having to pay like $1,500 to get a new and that was a brand new tire. So that's why I don't buy brand new tires anymore. But anyway, so it turns out that I dragged this tire probably 150 feet last night. In fact, I even let my foot off of the pedal, and just by the inertia or the, hill assist or whatever, the truck lunged forward. So I was like, okay, so it clearly let go. I didn't even think anything about it until I got around the tire bay at the terminal, and I had my window halfway rolled down, and I could hear it squeaking off the pavement. That's how I knew, oh man, it's still stuck. It didn't do too much damage, but it took just enough of the tread off of that spot where it was dragging to where I can hear my tire going down the interstate. So Kevin was giving me shit. He's like, oh, you're that guy now. So I don't know. Probably have to replace that tire here pretty soon. Plenty of tread on both the main tire as well as that area, but it's just because that area is unlevel. I don't know if I can tolerate that knocking sound. So Matt, I was on the phone with you last night when we heard it. I thought it was the road. It is the tire. I was able to confirm that it is definitely the tire. So I kind of screwed my tire up. So that was the first thing. Just to start the whole night, that was the first thing. The second thing is, I got to my empty trailer that they'd assigned me, and it was 21 degrees or whatever it was, and someone had gotten it washed out and just parked it. didn't run a dry out or anything, which I'm not upset about. I'm glad they got washed out. But they just washed it out and parked it. And the back doors were frozen solid. I mean, frozen solid. The handles were frozen solid. The little metal brackets that slide down above the handles, those were frozen solid. So there was, because the guy had sprayed, the whole trailer had been washed inside and out. So as soon as it came out of the bay, every bit of water on the whole trailer froze. Probably pretty quick because it was 21 degrees and this was probably recently washed. So everything was ice. Everything was ice. So I had to get back there with lighter and I've got this lock and this stuff that I spray on my locks to get them to loosen up, or the door locks, or my lock on my step box. I was out there with that stuff, spraying it just to get the damn brackets to loosen up. Then I finally got the brackets to loosen up and was able to get the handles out. And then it was just absolute. I mean, I was putting all the weight I had holding on to the metal bracket that the lock goes in, pulling that thing with all the weight I had with both doors unlatched to get that damn thing to break loose, because it was frozen all the way around the doors. So now I finally get the doors open after that battle, and there's just a solid sheet of ice all the way from the front to the back of the trailer. So I had to run a dry out. First of all, I ran it about 70 degrees for maybe 5 or 10 minutes to try to thaw it out a little bit. And then I ran a dry out cycle, which seemed to do the trick. And while I'm doing all that, I'm hooking up the trailer, and the landing gear was frozen. Now, I'm still fairly new to trucking. I've only been trucking for coming up on 7 years. But this is the first time that I've experienced frozen landing gear in Springfield, Missouri. Little bit weird. And this was the last day of November. Little bit weird. That's the kind of thing you would normally see in January, February in Dodge City or Minnesota or somewhere like that. Not Springfield, Missouri. So, and I mean, it was frozen. So I'm back there just slowly, all my weight, cranking that damn landing gear. And it just kind of was like, oh man, and I've got all four of these sensors yelling at me up here that there's no connection or anything. So I was like, you got to be kidding me. Then I get over here to Schreiber Foods, and they tell me that they're not going to start loading me until the day shift because they had another truck show up late or something like that. So it's like, just one thing after another. So I hope that this all doesn't set the tone for this campaign. This is going to be a short campaign, 3 weeks. And then work back home for Christmas, but not a good start. Not a good start. And that damn tire. That's why I only buy used tires, you guys. Because that was a 830 seconds or either 8 or 930 seconds tire, and it was like $170. So if I have to replace it, I'll probably deal with it. Because like I said, it's got plenty of tread. There's no damage to the tire other than some of the tread taken off, just a little bit of the tread taken off right there where I dragged it. I may deal with the noise until I go home and then replace her when I come back out after Christmas, then replace it. But I am probably going to replace it. But I'll only replace it with a $170 tire. I'm not going to replace it with a $1,200 tire, because then if something happens like that again, I'm not out to $1,200. I'm only out to $170. That's why I only buy used tires. But anyway, such is the life of trucking, right? I mean, all this stuff I'm complaining about is just kind of par for the course, just normal, this and that. I was really fortunate to, not that I'm afraid of any of these docks. I remember the days when I was afraid of these docks and the caves, but I was really, really fortunate to get Dock 5 when Dock 4 and 6 are trailers. This yard dog's pulling one out, so I might be joined by another truck. If another truck has to come get into Dock 4, it's going to be a struggle for him because he's got to go around me. He's got to go between these two columns and around me. But when I came in, I only had 2 trailers I had to go between, that didn't have trucks attached to them. So I had a pretty optimal dock if you're going to have to dock in the caves. The docks in the back are much more roomy than these up here in front. But they're, there's plenty of room. I mean, you could figure it out as long as you have a good idea of what you're doing. But I remember back in the day when I first came in here, Schreiber Foods, I was so intimidated by these docks, man. So intimidated. Like I just remember just hating every second of it. And that time, I think Jenna was with me at the time. That time, I actually watched another Prime truck rub the column with his tractor. He rubbed the column with his steps and did some pretty good damage to his steps. I think I mentioned that in a video. That might have been a video that was done at that time. But that was my first time docking here in the caves at Schreiber Foods, and I watched another Prime driver hit the column. So very stressful, but now these days it doesn't, it's just like any other dock to me. But still, I always want the most optimal situation. Whether I'm sketched out by it or not, it doesn't matter. I want the most optimal situation, and I got the most optimal this morning with a center dock with 2 trailers and no trucks attached to them. So we're off and running on this new campaign, and I'm gonna try to get in the groove of making videos these next few weeks. I've got my studio set up in the back, which is awesome. I got a couple things I need to work on, but I'm gonna try a live stream back there. Probably sometime this week with the full computer setup, which should be pretty cool. But man, when you take time off of when you take a long time off of YouTube, boy, and they're used to you doing very consistent content, they will punish you for it. And they are. So thank you for those of you who are watching. This is going to take me a minute to get back in the groove and get back into the algorithm, if you will. So that's kind of what's been going on there. In other news, I got a really good podcast coming out. It'll only be on the website at driveline.live, but it's really, really good. And Kevin and I are going to finish that one up sometime this week, but I think it's really good. I'll give you guys a little teaser of it here in one of the next couple videos. But that's it for today. Happy Monday. Hope happy December. Hope everything's going well for you guys. Hope you're being safe out there. I know it's really sketchy in a lot of parts of the country, and it seems like that's going to continue on a little longer. Winter came in heavy. It did not screw around, man. Thanksgiving hit, and then winter was like, all right, let's go. I'm not looking forward to it, but it is what it is. All right, guys, be safe, make good decisions, always drive, thrive. I'll talk to y'all soon.